there's a lot of inconsistencies that don't match up with what law enforcement told us the night of the shooting and the immediate aftermath after the shooting as well in the first joint FBI and LVMPD press conferences. And it also proves that I was right when I confronted Sheriff Lombardo at the press conference when I asked him, why they were lying about the timeline, because the new documents prove that on the night of the shooting, the FBI and LVMPD was aware that Stephen Paddock checked in on the 25th. But as you know, Sheriff Lombardo and Aaron Rouse, who's the special agent in charge of the FBI, they told people for about a week and a half after the shooting that Stephen Paddock checked in on the 28th, when they knew for a fact that night, as documented in the dispatch logs, that he was there on the 25th. But it appears that the FBI knew about Stephen Paddock prior to the Las Vegas shooting. And my source within the FBI told me that the Vegas shooting could have been prevented because the FBI had information available to them that would have prompted an investigation prior to Stephen Paddock carrying out the Mandalay Bay shooting. In one of the documents that were released, it was an account by one of the police officers and the detectives reporting on behalf of Department of Homeland Security. His name is Officer Andre Bates, and he works for LVMPD. On October 6th, he wrote that they became aware that Stephen Paddock's bank account had been shut down on the basis of suspicion of terrorism prior to the Las Vegas shooting. So one of his bank accounts, he had many of them, of course, one was actually shut down because he kept making large international transfers, and the bank suspected that he was using the money for terrorism. And according to my source in the FBI, when a bank shuts down a account for suspicion of terrorism or money laundering, they are then required to send a report, right? They have to flag it for suspicious activity, and then they have to send a report, and it's called the FinCEN database, right? And that stands for Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. And then when you send this report to FinCEN, then what happens is it goes into a database, and the FBI and other federal agencies like DHS, CIA, all of them really, they have access to FinCEN's database, which includes every single suspicious activity report that's filed. So that means that the FBI has a responsibility when an account is flagged to sort through the reports that are then submitted through FinCEN, and it's their job to then investigate the people who are flagged for suspicious activity in the FinCEN database. So the FBI dropped the ball once again, just like they did many times, as we've seen in the past year or two over the years, because they didn't investigate this lead. I mean, this whether you want to call it an act. Whether you want to call this an act of international terrorism or you want to call it an act of domestic terrorism, right? There's still that, that kind of unanswered, that mystery surrounding whether or not this was an ISIS terrorist attack, because, they didn't really show us any evidence that ISIS wasn't responsible, and ISIS has continued to claim responsibility. But it's clear that this still was an act of terrorism, right? When you gun down 58 people, that is terrorism. I also think that the FBI just doesn't want to admit that they could have prevented this, and they dropped the ball by failing to act on the report that should have been sent to FinCEN. And look, maybe a report was not sent to FinCEN, but it is standard bank protocol to submit these reports. So that would mean then that the bank dropped the ball as well. But either way, the media is not talking about this, and LVMPD, they're doing everything to release these documents in a very disorganized way so people can't find it. So you have to literally read it page by page to get this information. There are several PDF files. It was in the last batch. No, it was in batch 4. So the 4th batch of information, and it's on page 85 of the PDF. You can go to dangerous.com and you can actually type in, the name of the article is Exclusive Vegas Shooter's Bank Account Had Been Seized for Terror Financing, New Docs Reveal. I released the story on June 7th, and all of the documents are there so you can see them for yourself in case you want to just kind of look at it and observe it and make your own conclusion. Anybody who says that the Las Vegas shooting investigation isn't corrupt and is is a legitimate investigation, and anybody who tells you that Sheriff Lombardo and the FBI in Vegas are good people and that they've been honest about the Vegas shooting is out of their mind. Like, they're out of their mind. It doesn't matter if you're Republican, Democrat, whatever your political ideology may be. I haven't met one person who can look me straight in the eye and tell me that there isn't something wrong with this Vegas investigation.